Welcome to Story Quest. Today, I will be reading Little Woman, Chapter 13, Part 2. Margaret seemed to find it a little hard to tell hers and waved a break before her face, as if to disperse imaginary gnats, while she said slowly, I should like a lovely house, full of all sorts of luxurious things, nice food, pretty clothes, handsome furniture, pleasant people, and heaps of money. I am to be mistress of it, and manage it as I like, with plenty of servants, so I never need to work a bit. How I should enjoy it, for I wouldn't be idle, but do good, and make everyone love me dearly. Wouldn't you have a master for your castle in the air? Asked Laurie slyly. I said pleasant people, you know, and Meg carefully tied up her shoe as she spoke, so that no one saw her face. Why don't you say you'd have a splendid, wise, good husband and some angelic little children? You know your castle wouldn't be perfect without, said blunt Joe, who had no tender fancies yet, and rather scorned romance, except in books. You'd have nothing but horses, inkstands, and novels in yours, answered Meg. Wouldn't I, though? I'd have a stable full of Arabian steeds, rooms piles high with books, and I'd write out of a magic inkstand, so that my works should be as famous as Laurie's music. I want to do something splendid before I go into my castle. Something heroic or wonderful that won't be forgotten after I'm dead. I don't know what, but I'm on the watch for it, and mean to astonish you all someday. I think I shall write books and get rich and famous. That would suit me, so that is my favorite dream. Mine is to stay at home, safe with father and mother, and help take care of the family, said Beth contentedly. Don't you wish for anything else? Asked Laurie. Since I had my little piano, I am perfectly satisfied. I only wish we may all keep well and be together, nothing else. I have never so many wishes, but the pet one is to be an artist, and go to Rome and do fine pictures, and be the best artist in the whole world, was Amy's modest desire. We are an ambitious set, aren't we? Every one of us but Beth wants to be rich and famous, and gorgeous in every respect. I do wonder if any of us will ever get our wishes, said Laurie, chewing grass like a meditative calf. I've got the key to my castle in the air, but whether I can unlock the door remains to be seen, observed Joe mysteriously. I've got the key to mine, but I'm not allowed to try it. In college, muttered Laurie with an impatient sigh. Here's mine, and Amy waved her pencil. I haven't got any, said Meg. Yes, you have, said Laurie at once. Where? In your face. Nonsense. That's of no use. Wait, and see if it doesn't bring you something worth having, replied the boy, laughing at the thought of a charming little secret which he fancied he knew. Meg colored behind the brake, but asked no questions and looked across the river with the same expectant expression which Mr. Brooke had worn when he told the story of the night. If we were all alive 10 years hence, let's meet and see how many of us have got our wishes, or how many nearer where we are than now, said Joe, always ready with a plan. Bless me! How old I shall be! 27, exclaimed Meg, who felt grown up already, having just reached 17. You and I will be 26, Teddy, Beth 24, and Amy 22. What a venerable party, said Joe. I hope I shall have done something to be proud of by that time. But I'm such a lazy dog, I'm afraid I shall dawdle, Joe. You need a motive, Mother says, and when you get it, she is sure you'll work splendidly. Is she? By Jupiter, I will if I only get the chance, cried Lori, sitting up with sudden energy. I ought to be satisfied to please grandfather. And I do try, but it's working against the grain, you see, and comes hard. He wants me to be an India merchant as he was, and I'd rather be shot. I hate tea and silk and spices, and every sort of rubbish his old ship spring, and I don't care how soon they go to the bottom when I own them. Going to college ought to satisfy him, for if I give him 4 years, he ought to let me off from the business. But he's set, and I've got to do just as he did, unless I break away and please myself, as my father did. If there was anyone left to stay with the old gentleman, I'll do it tomorrow. Lori spoke excitedly and looked ready to carry his threat into execution on the slightest provocation, for he was growing up very fast, and in spite of his indolent ways, had a young man's hatred of subjection, a young man's restless longing to try the world for himself. I advise you sail away in one of your ships and never come home again until you tried your own way, said Joe, whose imagination was fired by the thought of such a daring exploit, and whose sympathy was excited by what she would call Teddy's wrongs. That's not right, Joe. You mustn't talk in that way, and Lori mustn't take your bad advice. You should do just what your grandfather wishes, my dear boy, said Meg in her most maternal tone. Do your best at college, and when he sees that you try to please him, I'm sure he won't be hard on you or unjust to you. As you say, there is no one else to stay with and love him, and you never forgive yourself if you left him without his permission. Don't be dismal or fret, but do your duty and you'll get your reward, as good Mr. Brooke has, by being respected and loved. What do you know about him? Asked Lori, grateful for the good advice, but objecting to the lecture, and glad to turn the conversation from himself from his unusual outbreak. Only what your grandpa told us about him, how he took good care of his own mother till she died, and wouldn't go abroad as tutor to some nice person because he wouldn't leave her, and how he provides now for an old woman who nursed his mother and never tells anyone, but is just as generous and patient as good as he can be. So he is, dear old fellow, said Lori heartily. As Meg paused, looking flushed and earnest with her story, it's like Grandpa to find out all about him without letting him know, and to tell him all his goodness to others, so that they might like him. Brooke couldn't understand why your mother was so kind to him, asking him over with me and treating him in her beautiful, friendly way. He thought she was just perfect and talked about it for days and days, and went on about you all in flaming style. If I ever do get my wish, you see what I'll do for Brooke. Begin to do something now by not plaguing his life out, said Meg sharply. How do you know I do, miss? I can always tell by his face when he goes away. If you have been good, he looks satisfied and walks briskly. If you have plagued him, he's sober and walks slowly, as if he wanted to go back and do his work better. Well, I like that. So you keep an account of my good and bad marks on Brooke's face, do you? I see him bow and smile as he passes your window, but I didn't know you'd got up a telegraph. We haven't. Don't be angry. And oh, don't tell him I said anything. It was only to show that I cared how you get on. And what is said here is said in confidence, you know, cried Meg, much alarmed at the thought of what might follow from her careless speech. I don't tell tales, replied Lori with his high and mighty air, as Joe called a certain expression which he occasionally wore. Only if Brooke is going to be a thermometer, I must mind and have fair weather for him to report. Please don't be offended. I didn't mean to preach or tell tales or be silly. I only thought Joe was encouraging you in a feeling which you'd be sorry for by and by. You are so kind to us, and we feel as if you were our brother and say just what we think. Forgive me. I meant it kindly." And Meg offered her hand with a gesture both affectionate and timid. Ashamed of his momentary pique, Lori squeezed the kind little hand and said frankly, "I'm the one to be forgiven. I'm cross and have been out of sorts all day. I like to have you tell me my faults and be sisterly, so don't mind if I am grumpy sometimes. I thank you all the same." Bent on showing that he was not offended, he made himself as agreeable as possible, found content for Meg, recited poetry to please Joe, shook down cones for Beth, and helped Amy with her ferns, proving himself a fit person to belong in the busy bee society. In the midst of an animated discussion on the domestic habits of turtles, one of those amiable creatures had strolled up from the river. The faint sound of a bell warned them that Hannah had put the tea to draw, and they would just have time to get home to supper. "May I come again?" asked Lori. "Yes, if you are good and love your book, and the boys in the primer are told to," said Meg, smiling. "I'll try." "Then you may come, and I'll teach you to knit as the Scotchmen do. There's a demand for socks just now," added Joe, waving hers like a blue worsted banner as they parted at the gate. That night, when Beth played to Mr. Lawrence in the twilight, Lori, standing in the shadow of the curtain, listened to the little David, whose simple music always quieted his spirit, and watched the old man, who sat with his gray head on his hand, thinking tender thoughts of the dead child he loved so much. Remembering the conversation of the afternoon, the boy said to himself, with the resolve to make the sacrifice cheerfully, "I'll let my castle go and stay with the dear old gentleman while he needs me, for I am all he has." Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, share, and comment down below. And if you have not done so already, please subscribe and hit that bell notification for future videos.